I look at the certification course for the new universities as something which will be very difficult to take root in Africa. I'm not a prophet of doom. I'm only being real and realistic. I don't know what is your take on this.
Uh, yes, I see that. And you're right. You're absolutely right with all of that. Charles basically asks, talking about the differences in the monetary system, which is a control factor of the world, and why they're devaluating it simply because, it's control. It's all about control. They did it where Ava was in Europe too, etc. They've done it in many places. Mexico, they did it a lot too, etc. Yeah, all over the world because the financial world. Why is there a difference in the so-called money that we have? It's because it's control. It's and you can see what they're doing to Africa. They're keeping everybody down for a particular reason. Because they use people as slaves there. There's a lot of value in Africa, so they can keep it down to where people have to work more and more and more. In other words, it keeps them working because they need to make more, so it keeps them working. And I understand that. Yeah, not everything's going to work everywhere. I get that. All right. So here's the idea, all right, of the new presentation, and that is that it's not as the corporation was. I could compare myself with NASA. I could say, oh, gee, we're not able to build spaceships. Why not? Because they have all that facility and they have those big computers and they can build spaceships. Gee, I want to build spaceships too. You see, it's not about comparing. It's about what the new presentation really is. What we're really doing here, the isness of life is that now we do everything. Okay? And we're exemplifying this. We're examples. You're an example. Miriam's an example. Look at Miriam. She's doing fine over there. And I'm not saying everybody's going to be aware and be able to do that. No. Um, the idea is that, but you must start somewhere. That's the idea. And you must do something. Okay? So again, what we're seeing right at this moment is what I've spent my entire life to get here with. You see? I started somewhere. So I'm looking at, since I just figured 1970 in the physical part of Paul's presentation. So I'm at, I'm going into 46, 47 years. It didn't happen overnight, but I started somewhere. And all these ideas about, well, the economy's this and the economy's that and the dollar's this and that. Okay, so we see those things. They're references, but they're not realities. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, gee, NASA is building spaceships and Trump is living in the White House. He's got servants. Gee, why don't I have this? I don't do that. And the Africans comparing to the United States and whatever, no, that does not relate. But what does make sense is that you do something. You do whatever it is. If it's collecting tin cans, if it's building your house out of tin cans, but you get people together. You do what you can. I look at all these movements in the world where there's 10 people, 1,000 people, millions of people. Like MoveOn.org is an example. They got like about 8 or 10 million people in their organization. How did they do it? Because they're activists. They activated their situation. You don't get a situation going by sitting around discussing what you can't do, when actually you can do whatever you want, but you must start somewhere. I've put in a lot of time with this and everybody else, and the boys on the real side, Paul would tell me many times what they're doing and showing me. And they're doing huge amounts for everybody. And yes, but again, it's everything. We do everything. That's why we're into everything. Okay? Look at the corporation. Look what Joni has done. Curtailed it all to basically worshiping and prayer and do what the corporation says along the guidelines. And don't go out there and have the adventure of life because you're going to create karma. Okay, you don't want to create karma. Fear factor. You just want to sit home, be numb, and wait for your next initiation. Just sit and beg and pray for that. Okay, for your next fake initiation. That's basically it. They don't do everything like we do, and so they make fun of us. It's like, well, what are they doing? You know, what's Duane doing? Well, we do everything. Okay, that's what we do. We do everything. And I know that the Africans don't have the possibility, but they do have the numbers. Okay, everybody has something. You have something. So they have the numbers. And so I look at the villagers and whatever. Hey, go out there and just start walking around and sharing the new you. Start getting the numbers. Start doing something. And I know people do, but it's going to take a while. So creatively bring it in some way. All right. I don't know, the culture of Africa. I don't know everything, but people are people. People respond. That's very real. And really, when you look at history, and I went over this many times, so there's women in Africa. I saw the documentary 5, 10 years ago. How they all got together, got their little pennies together. They created a bank, and then they started loaning money to each other. Oh, it took a bit, but see, they made sense of it. And that can be done. And so, again, that's why I've created what I have. I've created all these different areas, and we're starting off with nothing. We start off with nothing too. We do have the computers and whatever. But if I was in Africa, I'd go around just like I used to 30 years out there in the public. I'd go around. I used to pass out flyers all by myself. I couldn't get the class to do it. All by myself, I did it. I'd go talk to people on the beach. When Patty Simpson was doing the Equirel News, I would take those things, go down to the beach, and I'd talk to people. I did something. And many of these people that that all of a sudden, Martin Luther King is an example. He walked the streets. He got people together, etc. So, this is where we do everything. Nothing is negated. It's not where, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do that. That's negation. You're negating. Everything is possible. You take the soil, you can grow anything in it. Even if it's polluted, there's ways to do it. And I know a lot of the soil is because they got fracking and all kinds of stuff over there. Just like here, everything's poison. Everything is poison. So guess what? The same struggles that are going on right now, you've been through for how many thousands of lifetimes? And carried the same attitudes, and now you're into this lifetime, and now you have woken up to recognize the real guidance of the real guides with the real universes beyond all this cause and effect doomsday creation of the reptilians. And I would say take advantage of it and do not bring up any negations, but always see what can we do. Okay, if it's collecting weeds and selling weeds, selling pencils, whatever it is, we all start off that way. We all start off knowing nothing, and as people come into this life, they all of a sudden see, well, okay, well, this is life. Is this how it is? Okay, yeah, they're the effect of it. But now you have the awareness that you can do anything. So I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. So you cannot compare yourself to the United States, because what has happened in Africa is because it's been agreed to. Everything on this planet is agreement. I didn't decide the agreement of Africa. Africa did. I didn't decide the agreement in the United States. This is a consciousness here. It agreed to it, okay? And so I would say I would look at the possibilities. I always look at the possibilities and I go for the adventure. I know it's hard. You don't think it's hard for me? I've been in the hospital 3 times in the last several years because the Kalam God wants to destroy me, all right? Yeah, I'm the #1 target in the world. You think it's easy for me? Oh yeah, I have some computers and I have a good life. I get to go out and surf. But hey, I'm the #1 target in the world, just like Paul was. So again, you people over there in Africa, you're a lot safer than I am. If you wanna create a comparison, yeah, I'm one of the most hated people on the planet. I have a few friends here, but, compared to the billions on the planet, when they find out about me, especially the religious people and the Pope and everybody else, which they already know, they don't like me. Okay? So I get a lot of vibes that I got to deal with. So yeah, look at that comparison. So again, you want to focus on what makes sense. And so again, if it's groveling in the dirt, if I've done it. I struggled this life. I struggled through figuring this out so that everybody could wake up. There's your big advantage. It's not about continually comparing how the Africans are and how the United States is, or Russia or China or whatever, and they're doing business. It's not about that. It's about making sense of things and waking up to stand real with the is and doing something while you're here, because the planet is dying. That's a daily occurrence. It's dying. Your job is not going to do anything for you in the long run. Yeah, it's part of it, but we do everything, okay? Whatever it takes. But if I were there, just like here, just like this Skype, the Skypes are building, everything is building. You get people together, you get that agreement. It's all about agreement. Educate these people, get them together like Miriam's class, not just read from the book, but realistically take a look at things. It's all about agreement. The monetary system is agreement. You know about Bitcoin and all these things. Well, how did they exist? How did they start? How did they exist now? What makes them valuable? There's no value. It's agreed upon value. Do you see how it works? It's agreement. And I know about the monetary system very, very well. I'm dealing with it because I have very special instruments. I'm dealing with the monetary system all the time, and I see it's agreement. When people say, "Oh, well, what you have isn't worth anything, Duane," and I tell them, it's not about the value of whether it has value or not, according to you or anybody else. Okay, it's about what we do. That's what has value, and it's what I do, or it's what you do, and it's what you see. I keep putting that out there until it becomes a reality. You keep doing it. You don't just try it one time and it's like, oh, gee, nobody likes it. Nobody wants to know you, whatever. It's a lot. It's a lot for people to, it's not about change, but to wake up and see what makes sense. And so again, I figure that I can do whatever I want, and I will, and I am. And you know what? It starts to take off, but it's a lot. We do a lot. Ava and I have done thousands of pictures. I've wrote millions of words probably, over 900 groups on Facebook and other things and etc. And the thing is, we don't stop. We just keep doing it. And so, yeah, the Africans have to survive. I get it. We're trying to survive here too. It only appears differently. And while they're trying to poison us and everything else and bombard us. And so we'll look at the people in Syria, compare Africa to Syria that's being bombed by laser bombs and flare bombs and everything else. Look at that. Look at these people. Their houses are blown up. The children are dead and dying, and they're all just, poisoned with poison gas and everything. I mean, look at that struggle. I would say not to compare it to the United States, but when you compare the Africans and especially, Miriam and the people down there, hey, they look very fine. They're not being blown up. So this is the real world, and they have possibilities to do anything at all. And so again, I sat in the satsang classes, but eventually when I in a very short time, I saw, hey, I want to get out there and do something. Because it's really the adventure, it's the activity, and I can do anything. And I taught people for 20 years and they still sat around. And these people today that I knew in 2001 when I took the real position, well, you know what? They're basically lost. They fell back. So yeah, it's a struggle. But yes, and people have to, do their personal life respectfully. I see that. But, it's not about these attitudes of respect and integrity and, oh, gee, they're nice and they're good. It's about survival. What makes sense? Do you want to survive realistically? Do you want to pay attention? Or do you want to just be a nice person and get along like you did in other previous lifetimes, and then you just stay lost? Yeah, people have to survive, but there's a bigger survival. So I would say this is why the boys collectively stand together and they unite and they focus is what they do. And this is what I try to get people to do. I try to get them focused on what's taking place now. But some people just show up and even after years they still don't get it. They really don't get it. So they go off and do their own little thing, you see. So again, it's like a team. It's like a football team, you know. You can say, oh, I'm part of the team, but you sit there on the bench. You don't go out in the field and play. You don't deal with the offense, do you? No, not at all. You just sit on the bench and, suck on your Slurpee, and think that, oh, gee, I'm cool because I'm part of the team. No, the real team members step up and they do something, and they're totally dedicated. Yeah. And so as time goes on, things change accordingly, and then kind of like it would be the football team, all of a sudden they go on a road trip, and the guy on the bench, he's still there wondering where the team is. Well, that's going to show up too, because he's going to be left behind. It's a wake-up time. I would say create teamwork, Charles. It's very real. I'm very passionate about this. I've been through this a long time. I wish people would listen a little better, some people, and that is that it is teamwork. It's not about the me thing. Let's take a look at the corporation here. Let's look at this basic spiritual path. Let's look at the politics, the religion, the spiritual path, the educational system, scientific, and all this other nonsense that's in the world, okay, that everybody gives so much credibility to. And that is that it's always about me, isn't it? It's the me thing, like I said. Yeah, and what I've done is I've put everybody before me. It's about everybody. The attitude here is that it's for everyone. And I'm even trying to get the funding on a bigger scale for everyone that's real and steps up. But it's not going to be for everyone because, again, it is, but it isn't, because realistically everybody has to earn their way. So I'm not going to support people that are just duh and do nothing. But realistically, when you look at all these other systems, you look at Eckankar, look at all the people there as an example. Look at Scientology or any of these things. Look at Tony Robbins, whatever. It's all about the me thing, isn't it? Me. And who takes all the money? Tony, Joni. Yeah. It's the me thing. It's all about them. Me, I just try to pay my rent. Beyond that, I'll do whatever. But I spend all my time doing this. And what am I worth? What is the value of myself? There's people in the Skype groups that, even haven't supported me 1 penny financially. And it's not about the money. I don't really care about the money. We'll get past the money. We'll create our own monetary system. I see that in the future. We'll create cyber money like that, whatever it takes. We'll create that. But it's going to take me a while to get there. It really is. Yes. And I see it that, I need agreement. And it's just like the business deals I've always done. And it's just like the construction business that I had. I needed agreement for me to do the job. I didn't get the job unless they agreed. And the same with this. I need agreement. It's all about agreement. It's not about the fabricated fronts that you see. So what I've done here is I've created a position that's workable for everyone. That's so awesome. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because this is real passion, all right? It's not about control. It's about each person is awesome. They really are. You can do anything, but you need to start a step at a time. It's not going to just instantly happen. And this is where, what do people look for? Just like, and I'm going to put his name out there, Joseph. He was with a corporation, and he badmouthed us. Then he came into us, and he woke up. Then all of a sudden, then he's like the discussion he had with you a while back, months ago or last year, whatever. It's like, well, where are the miracles of the guides? Well, this is what people are looking for. They're looking for someone else to do it for them. There's the me thing again, and there's the God idea. Why aren't the gods fixing the world? Gee, we've all destroyed the world. Now, why aren't the gods coming and fixing it? Why aren't the masters coming and fixing it? You see, it's the me idea again. So, You have to be very creative, very direct, and step up with something real and quit babysitting these people with the old ideas. They're not going to work. That's just very real. They're not going to work. When I went through the corporation, I was to go through all of that. I've been through so many things, and I put myself through so many things, so I would see what not to do. That was the idea. I needed to see that, so I did have a comparison, so I could see what to do and recognize what is real now, which is so cool. And it's taken me a long time because life is big. You don't just take a course and get a degree and it's like, oh, okay, I'm the smart guy now. No such thing, not even close. These people that do get the degrees, I don't care whether they buy them or not, it's all nonsense. Thing being is that life is bigger. The wholeness of life is bigger. So yes, there's that part of it where you do the new you and you contact the real universes. But for the most part, that is based upon a la la land idea of the passive spiritual path. So people are thinking that, and yes, they do have nice experiences, in their dreams and whatever, and that's fine. But also, there's a bigger picture, and that is to stand up. And, for me, I'm fine with the battlefield. I'm fine with it. This is just how I am. I watch movies that are totally off the wall and nuts because I'm fine with the battlefield. Just like Chris, as a soldier. We're soldiers, but not everybody is. I get that too. So what do? We stand up and we protect those that can't be. But at the same time, they can do something else. The little woman can go in the kitchen and if it's wash the dishes and make the meals or whatever, but I do all that stuff myself. Anyhow, I do everything. All right. I do everything. I even wash windows. And so the thing being is that, again, I just suggest that you get out of this comparison thing. Okay. What we're doing is what we're doing. What NASA is doing is what they're doing. Okay. Again, I'm not thinking about them building rocket ships and they have this or that or the technology. I don't care about what they have because I focus on the is and I do what I can here. Whatever I'm able to do, I do. Every little thing I do. And I get so scattered sometimes, I don't even remember everything that I did, or want to do. And so that's where it's nice to have Ava and Kelsey around and others. And I'll even ask them, gee, well, what are we doing here or whatever. And Kelsey's amazing, and so is Chris and Vesna and everybody else. Yes, and Claudie, and it's wonderful to have them there because this is building the team. And that's what the Africans have to do. Forget the world, okay? Just deal with what you have to deal with, and you'll be amazed how life will come in and back you, and all of a sudden, as you create the activity, it will back you, and you'll bring this aliveness in. That's how it works. It's not sitting there begging for experiences. It's not about the me thing. Forget about your personal self. Get outside of yourself. Take the risk. Get people together. Have fun, creating the teamwork. Now look what Miriam has done as an example. Yes, and she's exceptional. I see that. She is. But that's why the boys chose her. That's why they chose you. You see? But it's not in the literal sense. It's everything. And someday we're going to be in Africa, and I'm going to be out there with the natives. I want to go to the villages. I see the people living in the huts like King in that. I think that's so cool. I'll get these people together. I'll do it. I'll figure it out. Do I have to come over there right now and do it? The thing being is that I got to do this too. Do I have to do everything? I had people that were going to step up to do the funding. Well, you know what? They're lagging because they're afraid. One of the biggest things I see is fear. Yeah, and that fear has been embedded in everybody here for lifetimes. And it is the systems that rule this planet. It's not that people can't do whatever they want. It's just that they're afraid to do it. They're afraid to step up to the system. They're afraid of everything. But they won't admit it. It's fear. because it's all about agreement. So what they do, they agree with the fear-based systems instead, and then they go, well, gee, I can't do that. But really what they're saying is, I'm too afraid to do it. When I first went out there in the public and I spoke, I was so nervous I could barely stand up. But I wanted to do it. I had to get past my fear because I had been, agreed to be passive and kind of lazy and whatever as I grew up with my mother, because again, that's all I basically knew. I had to deal with this personal self. But at some point, I decided to get through it. So it's just like Chris, when he joined the service, I don't think, it's a cool idea to be a soldier or Marine. He decides to join the toughest squad around. He could have just joined the Army and been dubbed, but he joined he joined the Marines. And I'm sure that, it was exciting signing up, but once you go there and you're on the bus and you're going there to the camp and you get off the bus and there's the sergeant and immediately he tells you what an idiot you are, okay, again, and that starts to get scary. And this is where we scare ourselves. Yes, Charles, it's okay to scare yourself. Constantly. I constantly scare myself. I constantly do. And many times, sometimes, even I'll talk to others and, I'll hear certain things and it's like, sometimes it's like, okay, what did I do? Did I screw up here? Did I mess up there? I even scare myself. I'm trying to do the best I can, but at the same time, I'm not perfect. But then I will stand real. I will stand up to anything that I've done, said, or whatever. I will do that. And I will take the beating or whatever, which I have. And so again, because I know what's real, and overall, it's not easy. That's why I recommend many people see the movie Officer and a Gentleman, because again, this individual went through the process and thought the sergeant was the bad guy, but finally figured out the sergeant was the good guy and really was trying to show him how to save his own life. And so that's what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm a little bit firm, but I'm very real and I'm very sincere. And the boys are the same way. Sometimes they scare me. Sometimes they shake their finger at me. What do you think? I get all these La La Land experiences? No, I've been through more hell and, drudgery and discouragement probably than anybody. And Paul went through the same thing. Anybody that takes this on, it looks great to be like president or CEO of a company. It's not. There's no glory in it. That's just what you do. This is just what I do. And really, it's almost like I respect others more than I do myself, because I see the struggle of everybody. I see it. And I see the struggle of the Africans. But, Charles, they got to do something, because they've got to step up. And it's not just about the new you. They've got to be creative in every means they can, because just like what you said with the devaluation of the currency, that's just one part of the control, the dumbed downness, and how they want everybody gone, because people are becoming too aware, because we are here. And they don't care if they're gone, because they know they'll come back in future lifetimes and start over again and have to struggle through their awareness again. So we've only got so much time. And so I would say getting people together and making sense of the things the best you can, etc. I mean, there are so many ways to do things, and I know it's a struggle. Hey, if 100 people have to live in the same house, they have to live in the same house. Ava, during the war and the Depression, I saw this one movie years ago, and it was just like what Ava described. Ava has a big house. Well, her dad had rented out rooms in that and whatever to survive. I think she had up to 25 people in her house at one time. And her dad had done that, and when she was young, because they had to survive during World War II or after World War II. In Germany there, it was a struggle for them to survive. Luckily, they did. So if it's that, then it's that. But anything is possible, but it's only possible. See, this is how the all aliveness works, not the spiritual idea or spirit or voodoo or all this nonsense. The all aliveness works according to what you decide, and if you step up and get out of that self convinced mode, and then it will back you because that's all it can do. It can only do what it can do. In other words, you see the river down there, you see the river flowing, but you need water to your house. And hey, your house is, a mile, 2 miles, 5 miles away, whatever, 5 kilometers away. Okay. It's going to take you a while to build a trench to your house to get water to your plants, but you got to start somewhere. You just don't stand there and say, "Oh, gee, all those farmers that have their land near the, near the river, I can't get to the river." There's always a way. This is what's so cool about the isness of life. Yes, it's a struggle. It's a hell of a struggle. We're all breaking out of the eggshell, constantly breaking out of the eggshell. But fortunately, we know what's real. And so by the very fact that you activate, this is like people that are activists. They are activating something. You activate it. There is no negation. I've said this so many times. There's no negating anything. There's only creatively figuring out things, how they work. And you have to get out of the comparison. In other words, yes, you can compare the two, but then you figure it out. What I like to do, is I compare the two. Okay, and I mentioned NASA, and I mentioned the president and the White House. Okay, and so let's take that comparison from where I am at, and what I see. And you know what I see is that, you know what? It's like the race between the tortoise and the hare. I'm going to do a lot better. I don't need them because I have the boys and the isness backing me. So it's going to take me a while, a few minutes, but you know what? I'm going to do a lot better than them. But it's not about doing better than them. The reality is that the only reason that I utilize that idea as a vehicle is that I'm going to do better for everyone. Yes, Charles. Thank you for your question. Thank you for listening. It's all for you.
Thank you, Duane. In fact, the idea is not to really compare, but just to present the reality, because well, it's good to come together to do something, but you must have the people, willing to, and there are certain factors that could militate against their coming together to do something beneficial for themselves and for the society in which they live and for mankind, for life in general. So it's good to be cognizant of these hindrances. And I was just trying to point this out, not actually comparing, because every society has its own peculiarities. Yeah, and I don't want to suggest that maybe some of the levies could be in local currencies, but for them to be in local currency, in fact, would be terrible, because just amount to nothing. Well, that is that. Try to do our best, even in the Congo there. Mariam is not having it easy. You look at the pictures, the guys are they're glittering, they're happy with the new presentation. The reality is that things are not adding up with them financially. Maybe having found a new presentation, they have found a new kind of happiness. And they will eventually come together, do something. They will do it. Mariam has already proposed it to them. And they are actively looking for ways to help themselves, to help life in general. Yeah, but for the moment, Mariam has to shoulder everything. She's planning to leave where she is now. You know, she's a realtor, and she's planning to sell the property on which she is now and move to another place. And in fact, locating a new meeting place, a temporary meeting place for the group. The new group is our concern now. Not everyone has this leverage. She's connected, and she's into this real estate thing, and you know what it is. Even in the US or anywhere, it's people who have an insight into it and who have been doing it. They know the ins and outs, how they can make money, and fabulously too. She's into that. She's single-handedly piloting the group. So her dilemma now is where is to locate a place where they can be meeting, because she has to sell that property now for a gain, and then get another property again, which in her opinion is cheaper. She must have made some money. That's life. That's how she goes along. The guys you see in the picture, maybe in the long term they could do well, but for now they're just creeping, crawling. Things will not be forever like that.